transition to your players to avoid. You do have Jared Goff on there.
Well, the Lions did just score, 38 points with Jared Goff scoring 14 fantasy points. This, I think, is probably like, if there's the thing I'm most excited to watch this week is the Lions offense against the Browns defense. Just because of how good both of those units are. And it looks like I'm actually the highest on Jared Goff, but I just don't know that I'm going to start any quarterbacks against the Browns.
All right, Goff 16th for you. The Lions averaged 34.6 offensive points per game at home last year. And this year, 52 points in their one home game. So they are so good in their building, but I don't think they face a defense quite like Cleveland's last year at home. You also are trying to avoid Tony Pollard and TJ Hockenson. Pollard at Houston, Hockenson against Pittsburgh.
So I think there's a big group of running backs in the RB 22 to 29 range that we're going to have to make decisions about. And Swift and Tony Pollard are certainly in that group. They're both kind of borderline start sits for me. Pollard may be the one that scares me the most. I think their implied total right now is 15.5. Just do not have a lot of hope that the Titans get the offense going, and don't think that Pollard has very good touchdown odds or enough of a role in the passing game to make him somebody you want to start in what looks like a very low scoring game. I thought the usage for TJ Hockenson with Carson Wentz was encouraging last week, but because of the way they're running their offense, it was still just 6 targets. I do think the Steelers getting a little bit healthier will be better defensively than they have been. And if they're not, and the Vikings are just playing from ahead, because I don't think Aaron Rodgers is going to do much against that Vikings defense, then I don't think they're going to throw that much. And Jordan Addison's back.
Yeah, that is true. Okay, so a few questions for you before we get to Jamey's players to avoid. Would you start Jared Goff or Geno Smith?
Oh, Geno for sure.
That was the easy one. Would you start Jordan Love or Geno Smith?
Jordan Love for sure.
Jamey?
Oh, I'm sorry. Jordan Love or Geno Smith. I wouldn't say for sure. I would start Love, but they're both very close.
I would start Geno, but if I have Love, I would not be dropping Love to pick up Geno.
Would you start Tony Pollard or Travion Henderson?
Pollard.
I have Pollard ahead, but Jamey mentioned it. And the only thing I saw was Henderson was going first in like the individual running back drills, which often signifies the starter. If we get anything else suggesting that Henderson's getting his first start this week, it will be Henderson over Pollard for me. Like it's razor thin right now, and I think there's a lot more upside with Henderson than there is with Pollard. Great matchup. I'd like to know for sure that he's getting an increase in touches.
All right, Jamey, 3 players that you want to avoid this week.
So Baker Mayfield's tough to sit, and I know he's getting Chris Godwin back, which is awesome, but I would still be a little bit cautious about him. He's not a slam dunk must start. You see, if you're watching on YouTube where we have him ranked, he's borderline starter at best. Sportsline is basically out on him in one quarterback leagues at 17, but Heath has him at 13, as do I, and Dave has him at 12. So just concerned about Baker this week. And again, not dropping Baker for Geno Smith, but I would start Geno Smith over Baker Mayfield this week if you're talking about just a 1-game sample size. So last week, under 20 fantasy points. We saw last year when he did not have Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, he was sort of cobbling his way to getting right around 20 fantasy points. So I think he can get to that number. Last week, he was at 19.7, first time since week 13 of last year in the regular season that he was under 20 fantasy points and had 1 touchdown pass. So it's a tough matchup. Philadelphia's defense obviously is still very good, very solid. They did a good job against Matthew Stafford last week, despite the fact he threw for 2 touchdowns. So I think Baker's just on that cusp of a starter. It's not a must sit by any stretch, but he's the bust alert in start sit. Javonte Williams is basically the same kind of situation. They're down 2 interior offensive linemen with the center and guard not being there in BB and the rookie. And now you're taking on a Packers run defense that has obviously been very good, aside from what Quinshon Judkins did last week. But this is a very depleted Cowboys offense at this point, and I think they'll be able to slow down Javonte. And what we saw last week, which could happen again, is when they were getting blown out in the fourth quarter, it was Miles Sanders on the field and not Javonte Williams. So I'm not so concerned. I'm not so confident that Javonte will be getting some garbage time production here. So he's, again, more of a flex play than a number 2 running back. And then the third guy, I forgot who I gave
Brian
you.
Thomas Jr.
Brian Thomas Jr. I think at this point, it's just time to consider him a starter in 3 receiver leagues as opposed to 2 receiver leagues. There's clearly something going on from a disconnect with his quarterback. He's dropping the ball. He's not looking very comfortable anytime he's over the middle of the field. And now he's facing a 49ers defense that I know it does not have Nick Bosa, but they still have a very good secondary, and they're going to make things tough on Brian Thomas. So at this point, you just have to kind of understand where he's at. I get it. Most people are still going to start him. 2 receiver leagues, I'm out. 3 receiver leagues, he's still in my lineup.